Everyone, welcome back to OnBase. I am your host, Chris Moody, and we have a very special episode today. I am joined by Amber Naslund, and to give a little bit of context before Amber introduces herself, we started a podcast together about 12 years ago. So it was a long time ago. We did a run. We had some amazing guests. It was fun to do it together, but it's lovely to see you back. Amber, please say hello to everyone.
Hello. It's like we were joking like before we aired that, Chris and I have known each other a really long time. And in some ways we feel really old, but in other ways it feels like yesterday. It's fun to be back, but it doesn't feel like back. It's just like, is this V2 of our podcast? We should resurrect that.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I used to carry a little box around with a Blue Yeti microphone, and then I remember talking into a Tupperware cube. For those who click this video,
camera still then, or was that post flip camera? I don't like.
Oh yeah, we had those. We had all the funny cameras and tech.
Anyway, that was a different time.
Hey, we made it out. We survived. And now we have all this amazing technology. But I'd love for you to walk folks through your journey. You have a background that spans marketing, sales, and amongst other things. But tell everyone a little bit about what led you to what you're doing today.
Yeah, that's like, I'm going to try to be efficient with this story because it's easy to get really long. But the TLDR is that I started my career in nonprofit fundraising, which led me weirdly to corporate marketing kind of by accident. Like somebody pulled me into a marketing job and I was like, I don't know anything about marketing. And he's like, yeah, it's like fundraising is close enough kind of thing. So I ended up in marketing by accident, but I spent about 25 years in that space, stumbled my way into tech and B2B marketing specifically. And along the journey, I worked for startups. I worked for mid-scale companies. I was part of a startup that was acquired by Salesforce. I started a business that failed pretty spectacularly. And then went back to the marketing world. And then I came to LinkedIn about 6.5 years ago. And for a long time, I'd been kind of contemplating a move back into more commercial and customer facing roles. And a sales leader job opened up in LinkedIn. And I asked the leaders above that organization, I was like, maybe I could throw my hat in the ring. I know it's kind of a long shot with zero expectation, honestly, that I would get the job, that it would just be like a really good learning experience. But somebody saw value in the background of marketing as it applied to a sales role where my customers are B2B marketers. So that's a very nice alignment. And so I've been on the sales side ever since. So I've been on our LinkedIn marketing solutions business, which is our media business. So I'm now a director over an enterprise technology sales vertical across North America. So it's a very full circle kind of thing. The clients I work with are like me, or former me. So it's very fun. It's still very close to home, but I've really enjoyed the world of being on both sides of that table.
Yeah, I love that. I'm almost wondering too if you do the marketing to sales code switch with you having been in both, where it's like, hey, these leads are terrible when you're talking to the sellers and then two marketers. But yeah, tell us a little more about how important you think it is to have the marketing background going into sales.
In my world, I actually am pretty sure it's 90% of what makes me successful at this, because I think it's different depending on what industry you're in, but because the clients I work with are B2B marketers, it lends instant credibility to be able to walk into a room and speak the language of the people that you are trying to partner with. So it eliminates some of the skepticism of this is just a pitch to this is somebody who's actually sitting across the table and wants to collaborate with me to solve business problems. It also means that I can help our company, our teams, and our business better understand the people that we are trying to work and partner with, because I've sat in that chair. So it's easier for me to help them ask the right questions, dig into the right problems, and even define the problems in the right way so that when we come to the table, the media program that we're talking about is one facet of that conversation, but we can have a much more strategic dialogue about what those marketers are trying to do as a business, what their key and core marketing challenges are. And then the media becomes the last mile of executing on that strategy, but it's not the thing that has to be front and center. So I think it's definitely helped me have more meaningful conversations with the customers we work with. And I hope by proxy, it has helped my broader team feel like they've picked up a few things along the way about how to collaborate with B2B marketers.
Perfect. Yeah, the collaboration with B2B marketers. I want to hit on both sides of this equation because you get to play both sides, which is pretty incredible, right? I mean, I love that too. When we're selling to people like us, I do think we could just join calls and talk shop. Yeah. It's not a huge prep study, like try to be your true self. It's just joining and being yourself, which is really incredible. What are the things that you wish all marketers knew about sales or behaviors that they had? If you could impart that knowledge with that background and where you sit now, what are some of the tips you would give to any marketer?
This sounds really kind of basic in a lot of ways, but I can speak from personal experience that I don't think we as marketers spent enough time with sales. Like we didn't spend enough time sitting in the room, because a lot of what we do as marketers is we create archetypes, ideal customer profiles, ideal sales and marketing journeys, content journeys, nurture journeys, like all these things. But a lot of it is based, it's a little bit more theoretical in nature. Like we're making a certain amount of hypotheses or assumptions, and we're grouping people together or ideas together. And we have an ideal state in our mind. Like a person learns about our brand and then they do this and then they do that and then they become a lead and then miraculously give us money. And so marketers have one vision of that in their head. And then when you get to the sales side of the table, the reality of how that actually works and the conversations we're really having with customers, the challenges they're really facing, and the things that are preventing them from making deeper investments in what we're doing are often wildly different than what marketing assumed those things were. So the importance of being able to sit down and have real talk conversations about, I know you guys built this campaign to do X, Y, and Z, but what we're actually hearing from our customers is this. And being able to have everybody to have like the humility and spirit of collaboration to come together and be like, we need to align these things more tightly, because the message that marketing wants to get out there and what our customers need to hear, there's usually some kind of gap between that. And to some degree, I think like the emergence of sales enablement is trying to solve for some of that disconnect. But now we're adding more complexity to that as opposed to stripping complexity out and being more intentional about saying, hey, marketing, are you and I on the same page about what the end goal is here? And again, I know it sounds really simple, but I work with clients every day who are struggling to do this in their own organizations. And LinkedIn sometimes becomes the catalyst for bringing sales and marketing together and be like, can we have a conversation about like how you guys are working together? And it's fascinating. It's not because like I don't think people are ill-intended. It's more like in the avalanche of the day-to-day jobs and responsibilities, it's easy to live in our silos. So I think we have to spend a lot of intentional time to make space for better sales and marketing alignment, because when you unlock it, it's huge, but not enough companies spend time on it.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I'm smiling too, because it resonates with me. I mean, we cater to very similar audiences, and pulling sales and marketing together, you do always realize most of the time, either speaking different languages, not working together to understand the same language or the same metrics. If you jump to the other side, so put the hat you're wearing today, the sales side on, what do you wish all sellers and sales leaders knew about marketing to help pull them closer together?
I actually talk with my team about this a lot. And I think there's two things. One, irrespective of whether your customer or your client is in marketing or not, there is art in simplifying what we do. And I just told my team last week that we needed to get more comfortable with casual, especially in a virtual world. It became really easy to depend on the pitch deck or the pitch materials or the email sequence or the thing that we're trying to do that's very architected. And we've lost a little bit of the art of sitting down over coffee or a cocktail with somebody and just having a dialogue about what they're trying to do and making that conversation about them as opposed to what our goals and objectives are. As sellers, we get very like, we have to hit a number, we have to close a deal, we have to do all this stuff. And we get blinders to the fact that what we're actually there to do is help our customers solve a problem or a challenge that they have. And I appreciate and understand the sense of urgency that comes from like getting the deal done. I say all the time that like the revenue or the deal or the contract or whatever we're doing is the net result of all of the good inputs we put in to make sure that we really understand our customers, that we help them believe that we are in it with them, that we are collaborative, that we are generous with what we know, that we are trying really hard to invest in that relationship long before we're trying to make any withdrawals. It's an exercise in patience, but like you kind of have to believe that the sale comes pretty naturally if you do all the other things well. But we in sales love our sales processes and our like all that stuff. And there's merit sometimes in like stepping back and simplifying what we're doing.
We need to put get comfortable with casual on a t-shirt. I love that. It makes me think, you mentioned sales enablement, and I haven't made like a great LinkedIn thought leader post about this or a video of me walking down the street to be like, you want to know the two hardest functions in revenue teams? So in my head, though, I do think sales enablement and product marketing are two that I think are the most difficult in revenue teams, because it is the job to completely understand the customer and all the pains and then to help have those conversations. But to your point, it does lead to pitch decks and talking points and snippets and what we need to put on the website. So with the get more comfortable with casual, how do you think sales enablement and product marketing teams can get more comfortable with casual? Because this is not a knock against anyone. I think the function of those two teams and those leaders and everyone on those teams is to make it a little more regimented, and here's the process and here's what we need to say. So what would be your nudge to a sales enablement or product marketing leader?
Had both of those functions under my purview in previous lives, and if I could go back and do it again, I would think a little bit more about product marketing and sales enablement being about building Legos, not models. Meaning our job is to develop pieces that ultimately the sales teams can fit together to develop more comprehensive solutions that tackle the challenges our clients have. So I think sometimes what happens in like, especially in product marketing, is that each PMM owns their product and they are very focused on pushing through adoption of their product, but it's disembodied from like the rest of the other products in the portfolio. So for companies who have multiple products, it becomes like you have all of these linear lanes and each one is grappling and cannibalizing each other to get adoption for their product. And what the sales teams need is the ability to combine several of those things and fit them together in a semi-bespoke way for each customer. So it's like, I need a little bit of this, a little more of that. And if PMM and enablement teams can think a little bit more about building the system that people can draw from and fit things together, I think it makes it so much easier for sales teams to develop more strategic solutions for the clients they're working with, as opposed to feeling like they have a bunch of disembodied like pitch decks for 15 different products and they don't know how to Frankenstein them together in any way that actually gets at the problem our clients are trying to solve. So I'm actively like always trying to do that with our teams, is like, how do we fit these things together to tell the story we need to tell? But a lot of times in these days, it falls to the sales teams to do that.
Yeah, it's almost like you've been in rooms with 15 different sellers from 15 different products based on acquisitions. We don't have to talk about that, but it sounded like you may know something.
Today. That's a therapeutic conversation we have to have another time. But yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, look, I think people brand storytelling as fluffy, right? When we talk about storytelling, there's always some perceived fluff. But to your point of having the conversations, understanding the pain, I've always found that there's usually a direct correlation between the best storytellers who are in sales and higher performance. But it's not necessarily that they're telling this amazing story that they've built. It's the listening and the understanding and really knowing the pain and then gradually building towards the conversation of here's how we solve the pain. I'd love to get your stance on how you think storytelling fits into this entire process.
Oh boy. Storytelling is one of those words that like at its hype cycles in marketing, it kind of comes and goes. It's like the flavor of the week that we love to talk about. So I think it's important to break down what we mean when we say storytelling. And I think everybody probably has a little bit of a different definition. But when I think about it, what it means to me is being able to be more effective at connecting dots, meaning my client or my customer has a certain set of dots that they care about. I have certain sets of dots that I care about. And so can I draw a picture of connecting those dots in a meaningful way that helps us see holistically how all of this fits together. So I think one of the mistakes a lot of marketers make is that when they think about storytelling, they think about only the emotional brand storytelling side, which is critically important. Don't get me wrong. We could talk a lot about the importance of that. But there is also the story we need our clients to believe in order to invest in what we're asking them to invest in. And those stories need to look a little bit more like a hypothesis than a story. So we're not telling a fable. We're trying to illustrate an outcome and our beliefs about the steps required to get to that outcome. And like, if we believe if we do X, Y, and Z, that our result could be A, B, and C, that's a more effective way of thinking about it, because ultimately when a marketer is looking at their budget and making very judicious decisions about where to spend their money, they don't need a story about a princess and a castle. They need a story that says, this is a desired outcome and I have a plan for how we're going to get there. So brand storytelling, different beast. But when you're talking about the sales and marketing side of getting a deal done, storytelling needs to look a little different.
Yeah, totally. And you mentioned brand, you know where I'm going. When you say brand, everywhere on LinkedIn, everyone's talking brand versus demand still. This has been a topic since the beginning of time.
The hair that I've dyed is largely because of that dialogue. But
that's why I wear hats. That's why I wear hats, Amber. Lots of gray versus when we started doing episodes together. Yeah. But you know, it quickly funnels into attribution, and it feels like that's yet another hype cycle or wave that we tend to follow, where now I think we're back into what I was seeing 10 years ago, where we need to measure every dollar in, every dollar out, and only invest in highest dollars in. And I actually think most are undervaluing the importance of brand. But I'd love to get your perspective on brand versus demand and perfect attribution with where you sit today and with your background, because I think you're seeing both sides, like what's helping the sales team and also the pain that marketers are feeling and trying to invest in things to grow the brand while also making sure that we're running pure ROI programs.
The biggest mistake that we made in marketing in the last 20 years as we adopted digital is organizing our mental models around marketing based on an org chart and believing that because we could get click data, that now the ability to attribute success in marketing only comes from measurable, trackable digital footprints. And that has served against us, I think, more than it's helped us, as illustrated by how many marketing teams become these little fiefdoms of, like, we have the performance team, we have the growth team, you have the acquisition teams, you have the field marketing teams, you have the product marketing teams, then you have a brand team that sits in this like mythical corner. Brand is demand. It's all one thing. Like, if marketing is a holistic system at its best, meaning an end-to-end process of like getting people who don't know who we are to know that we exist, which is step one. And then the end result of that journey is eventually, hopefully, they become a customer, give us money, love us so much that they give us more money and bring other people to give us money. Like that whole virtuous cycle, it is such a disservice to decouple those things because we function differently within our orgs about executing against those things. But brand and demand are like part of the same cycle. You cannot have one without the other. So if you strip out all of the like loaded feelings around the word brand and like let go of the idea that brand means a Super Bowl ad, and instead think about the fact that brand is the art of helping people who don't know you exist discover you in the first place, then it becomes so much more obvious how that's the beginning of somebody's eventual journey to becoming a customer. But you can't do this. We only care about ROI focused stuff. All you're doing is saying that the time horizon is broader. But ultimately, that lead you're capturing is still the result of brand marketing you did somewhere. That person learned about you in the first place somehow, came to believe that you were worthy of consideration somehow. And then eventually all the way down, you finally got to like a moment on a pixel that you could track. And we delude ourselves into believing that that's super high ROI because like we spent $15 on an ad, we got a click, somebody bought a $20,000 contract. So we give that attribution to that click. when in reality there was so much like ambient influence happening around that process to get people to ever care that you existed in the first place. And there's so much research now that shows that like everybody who buys, let's talk it software for a second. Like if you're buying a software product, you're making a mental list in your head on day one. You might shop it, you might pull together a list of vendors, you might do a little research or set somebody out on your team to do a little bit of research. But ultimately you start with some preconceived notion of who should be on that list. How do you think that got there? It isn't a gated ebook that helped somebody put you on that day one list. It was 1,000 little micro interactions over time. It was word of mouth. It was some kind of passing impression on a billboard you saw in a bus station. You know, there's a million little micro moments that go into helping somebody become aware and interested in your brand. And a lot of those aren't trackable through any attribution model that we delude ourselves into believing is the source of truth.
It's good stuff. There's so many clips there that we're going to have to pull out. I may just put the whole thing. That was really good.
Good about this topic. Good thing I don't care at all about any of this, though.
Oh, it's so hard to be passionate when you join calls, right? Like we don't live this at all. No, well, okay, we have to shift into the lightning round because we don't have all day, unfortunately. We should do a longer form after hours episode. We're testing that content too. Like you can bring a drink, we can hang out, whatever you want to do. Alcoholic, non-alcoholic, your choice.
That one. I will bring bourbon or whatever. Yeah, let's.
All right, you're in. You made the guest list. Congrats. Okay. We will put you on that one. So the first one, what are some of your favorite pieces of technology that you're using today?
I mean, am I going to be so mid by saying AI? And it's also because like I'm not good at it. So I'm enjoying the learning curve of getting into some of these models and tinkering around and seeing what it can do and reconceiving new ways it can help me be efficient. I actually, like on a personal note, I've been working on this novel concept for years and I'm like a little stuck on a few things, and AI actually really helped me like think through some of the gaping like plot and idea holes I had. So it's been fun to play with. I'm a little scared of it all, but I'm learning rapidly.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I've done the same, even to explain things to our 13-year-old who doesn't want to listen to my advice. So I will have whichever LLM I'm using be an expert in any given topic, and then they will give him advice versus his father, even though it's usually exactly what I said. But yes, that is very helpful.
Says you should do this, so you should listen to the computer instead.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Okay. What about good reads? So what are your favorite books, blogs, newsletters, podcasts? What do you listen to today or read?
So lately, because I took on a new job at work and it's been like overwhelming in all of the best ways. I pulled this classic out. I don't know if you've ever read The First 90 Days, but like this baby has been a really good Bible for thinking through how I want to spend my first 3 months in that role. So I have that I've been reminding myself. My pleasure read right now, I'm in the middle of reading the book Babel by Rebecca. I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce her last name right. Kwang. Forgive me, but she is amazing. Like I think one of the best writers of our generation. So I love that book. Podcast wise, I've been listening to The Hidden Brain. I'm a little bit of a neuroscience nerd and I love understanding like why we think the way that we think. So it's been a balmy listen on my train rides into the office. I don't know why awesome. I find it soothing to understand like neuroscience stuff. Maybe it's I need reasons for things.
No, I do think that's important. Understanding why we do the things, why we think the way we think. Yeah, I think that's awesome. We will add those to our list. What about good people? Who inspires you in the B2B space?
God, this is a hard one because they're not the usual suspects. Like I've been around too long to sort of fall in love with the latest influencer. One of my favorite besties online is Ashley Faust, who's the head of I'm going to get Ashley's title wrong. She's at Atlassian, so I'm not even going to try to get her title right, but she's at Atlassian. And what I love about her is that that girl is in the comments. Like she's not just out there pushing her own kind of individual platform. She is the embodiment to me of what it means to be a leader within and among a community and be generous with her knowledge and ideas and thoughts. And she always adds value to the conversations that she's in. So I love watching her operate because I think she balances all of that really masterfully. And I love learning from that approach because maybe it's because it really aligns with how I want to operate, but I love her. I also have deep admiration for my friend Jen Van de Zandt. So if you don't know Jen, she's the head of editorial for SAP's customer experience blog. And she's built that thing brick by brick organically for years. And the work that she's had to do to defend that work, to protect that turf, to continue to illustrate the value to her colleagues and customers about having an independent editorial property that's like separate but adjacent to the SAP brand. It's just a masterclass in like how you consistently build authoritative content over time. And I love, she's a spectacular human, but the work that she does is so unsung. So I'm giving her props here because she deserves them. But I love watching what she's built over there because I wish more people would take a page from her book.
Those are great intros for both of them too. So if you're bringing them on to speak, 10 out of 10, no notes. That was awesome. Yes, I would love those connections. And then the most important question of all, how can everyone get in touch with you after this episode?
Oh gosh. Well, of course you can come find me on LinkedIn. I think that like somebody would fire me if I didn't say that, right? But no, that's the place I'm most active these days. So if you just search Amber Naslund on LinkedIn, I might be the only Amber Naslund on LinkedIn. So I'm not too hard to find, but that's usually where you can find me running my mouth or hanging out.
Awesome. Well, Amber, it was so great to see you. Thanks for joining us today.